Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I have said in far too many videos now that the police are not your friend. I've given widespread examples of bribery, of corruption, of criminality, and good old-fashioned ineptitude. I have called for oversight, for someone to be responsible for the day-to-day running, if you like, of the police, to make sure that even senior police officers are doing their job. But what happens when the man charged with that responsibility, charged with overseeing the police, is then himself ordered to resign because of historic accusations of a sexual nature? Does nobody vet these people? And why did it take so long for the nature of this allegation to come out? Why was it hidden? Why was it initially described as for personal and domestic reasons? Personal, perhaps, because it was him personally who did it. And domestic is perhaps because his wife has found out. Who knows? We'd like to, but let's look at this article. This is an interesting story because I think the timing of this investigation is somewhat suspicious. And I think it's odd that it's taken 40 years for the story to come out. And all of a sudden it comes out and the police start investigating it. Anyone else had a 40-year-old allegation like this, it probably wouldn't be investigated. But because the police have now got to investigate the man who holds them to account, they're going with this with such vigour. And it seems quite vindictive. Not to say that he didn't do it or that he did do it. Of course, innocent until proven guilty. This is only an allegation. But it seems that on both sides, it's a bit suspicious. It's suspicious the police, like I say, are going with this against this particular person. But it's also suspicious that this particular person resigned so quickly. Is that the action of an innocent man? But let's look at the article here. Head of Police Complaints Watchdog Michael Lockwood quits his $190,000 a year role amid criminal investigation into an allegation of a sexual nature from 40 years ago. Michael Lockwood, 63, Director General of the Independent Office for Police Conduct, has stepped down after an investigation into a historic allegation. Sources say the allegation from when he was in his 20s is of a sexual nature. Home Secretary Suella Braverman said she has accepted his resignation. That is not strictly true. She did not so much as accept his resignation. She told him to resign or he would be suspended/fired. So the man in charge of investigating police misconduct has suddenly resigned because of this allegation. It relates to behaviour from his 20s when he was living in Humberside. Last night, Home Secretary Suella Braverman said she'd accepted his resignation and added, "I took immediate action upon being made aware that Mr. Lockwood was the subject of a police investigation into historic allegation and instructed my officials to ask him to resign or face immediate suspension." If I was him and I was innocent, I would refuse to resign. They would have to fire me. And I would either find myself innocent or the charges would be dropped, and at that moment I would sue them for wrongful dismissal. What she's done is prejudged. Now, it may be that there's a weight of evidence. She's seen the weight of evidence and it's very strong. And that's fine. But he's still innocent until proven guilty. The correct procedure would be to suspend him immediately, pending the outcome of the investigation. Not ask him to resign. And I think that's if he's innocent, I think what she's done is wrong, and she's destroyed his career. And if he's guilty, then fine. You suspend him until he's found guilty, and then you fire him, and he has all the ignominy of all that as well. But to just ask him to resign on the basis of an allegation. So anyway, in a statement posted on the IOPC website on Friday night, Mr. Lockwood said, "It is with great sadness that I have decided to resign as the Director General of the IOPC for what he described as personal and domestic reasons." This will be effective from today. Presumably, the personal reasons is because he was involved, and the domestic reasons is his wife's found out. Presumably, that's if he's guilty. I'm not saying he is. And in law, he's actually innocent because he hasn't been prosecuted. I got to keep stressing this. I don't want to get sued. So anyway, the watchdog investigates serious allegations of misconduct or criminal offences by officers, and boy, it must be a very busy office, and plays an important role in holding police forces to account. Doesn't do a very good job considering how many times I keep making videos on the criminality and ineptitude of police forces across the country, but they do have their role. It is often involved in sensitive investigations into allegations against serving officers in England and Wales, and its remit can involve interviewing victims of S-crimes and other vulnerable people. And I've done several videos recently on the sort of crimes that these terrible policemen are doing. The departure of Mr. Lockwood comes after several years in which the watchdog has been under continued scrutiny. Yeah, he is watching the police, but who is watching him? And after taking up his post in January 2018, the IOPC exonerated all the officers referred to it over alleged misconduct in Operation Midland. So critics dubbed the failure to hold anyone to account for the investigation into false historic allegations of CA, you can read the words, against young people, high profile figures, a whitewash. And it was a whitewash. You had a man called Carl Beach. Beach was known to the police in convictions. He was known liar. And in order to save his skin on a particular offence, he concocted an absolute tale of a ring, a P ring, in Parliament, in the in the upper circles, the upper echelons of society. It involved junior members of the royal family, senior military officers, House of Lords, politicians, senior policemen. He just built this fantasy out of his mind. Reputations were destroyed. People lost livelihoods, lost their standing. People died in ignominy and shame. Not shame that they were guilty. Shame, no, they were innocent people. But shame that they'd even been alleged to have done it, and they had no opportunity to prove their innocence. Carl Beach was a fantasist, was dangerous, and destroyed lives with his lies. But what was worse was that the police knew he was lying. Senior officers carried on the investigation. They were using his wild allegations as an excuse for them to, I don't know, get even, to pick off one or two people they didn't like, expose the underbelly of the administration, perhaps personal vendettas, who knows. But they knew it was a lie. And then there was an investigation into Operation Midland, and strangely it found that no one was to blame. No one was held responsible. This is who you're dealing with the police. They can destroy people's lives and yet are unaccountable. Nobody lost their job. Nobody went to jail. Anyway, Mr. Lockwood, a former accountant, fiercely defended the IOPC's investigation and made his opposition clear into reopening the probe. So you wonder who's got to him into this allegations. So you wonder if someone's got to him, and if so, and he's protected the police, then why are the police coming after him? This is why it's all very complex. You think he's a friend to the police, and yet the police are very vigilantly investigating this 40-year-old accusation, and yet he's resigned rather than fighting it. It's all very complex. Following the inquiry, this is the Midland, the watchdog was branded unfit for purpose by Baroness Lawrence, Lady Britain, and 5 others whose lives were affected by bungled Scotland Yard operations. Wow, that's a very long list. In a letter to the Prime Minister, they called for the IOPC to be led by a credible and legally trained individual, not an accountant. The IOPC, now I'm an accountant, but I wouldn't want to do a legal role. It's too much like hard work. The IOPC has also been in the spotlight after taking police to task for the S misconduct following the R&M of Sarah Everard by Officer Wayne Cousins. Mr. Lockwood called for the vetting of recruits to be more intrusive and diligent to get rid of baddies. So here he's helping the police on one hand with protecting them over Operation Midland, and yet here he is on the other hand saying that police need to be more diligent and deeper vetted. So it's not, and of course the idea of getting rid of the criminality in the police is something that the police don't want. They like their criminality. They like the power. They like to be able to get away with the things they get away with so often. So perhaps that's the reason they were so vigilant in investigating a historic 40-year-old allegation. Still very, very weird on both sides. After Ms Everard's last year, he said officers who fell below expected standards of behaviour were not one-off events. No, they're not. And we've shown that time and time again on this channel. And couldn't be dismissed as a bad apple, adding there must be self-awareness of the problem and firm action to tackle it by leaders. The IOPC was set up in January 2018 following the closure of its scandal-hit predecessor, the Independent Police Complaints Commission. And since he became Director General, Mr Lockwood has presided over investigations into systemic R-ism within police forces, with the 17 officers who handled the investigation into the M's of 4 young men by Stephen Port and Boris Johnson's relationship with US businesswoman Jennifer Arcuri while he was Mayor of London. The IOPC declined to comment last night on why he resigned. Well, it's all coming out that this allegation is of an S nature, and he either did it or he didn't do it. At the moment, he didn't because he hasn't been found guilty, so he's innocent until proven guilty. But then why did he resign so quickly? Question number 1. Question number 2, why were the police so diligent in investigating a 40-year-old allegation? Question number 3, given that, why was he so pro-police when it came to covering up Operation Midland and anti-police when it came to rooting out criminality? Does that give the police, the 4th question, does that give the police a motive, one way or the other? There seems to be a lot of questions that aren't being asked, and it's something that needs to be investigated far, far deeper. But he should certainly never have been asked to resign. He should have been suspended immediately. I agree. But, hey, what do you do? Anyway, I shall come up and round off. Everything about this case is a bit shady, a bit sketchy, very suspect. The timing, the diligence, the person being investigated, the manner of his dismissal. I think this is something far deeper and far bigger than it first appears. It would not surprise me if this goes to the very heart of the establishment. He was possibly investigating something that would have been best left untouched. Don't tickle sleeping dragons. It does seem more political than investigative, and the way that he was so quickly ushered out of office, the man responsible for police conduct. Weird, isn't it? One way or another, I think the truth will eventually come out. But this has all the hallmarks of a damn good conspiracy theory. So I shall finish now, but watch this space. I'm going to keep an eye on this one. Anyway, if you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, watch those politicians like a hawk, and goodbye.